today we are going to do one more topic, that is Vihar, which means code of conduct. So Vihar are divided into three types: Ritucharya, Dinacharya, and Sadvrita. That is, Ritucharya is the code of conduct for the season. Dinacharya is code of conduct for the day, means what are the things that is supposed to do for the day, and Sadvrita is code of conduct of behavior. So how the behavior part of oneself. What is Vihar? Vihar is, again, I told you, code of conduct. How do you conduct yourself during the day through all the seasons, and also behavioral conduct. So like I have mentioned in my previous slide, uh, I think it was in my Ratri Charya. Yes, it was for the Ratri Charya and Ahar slide. The day is divided into Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And same way, even the seasons are divided as such that they are, a few are Vata dominant, few are Kapha dominant, and few are Pitta dominant, or not dominant as such, but they are, those are types that could vitiate certain doshas in your body. And why this happens? Because of course, as the season changes, there are changes in the climatic conditions, which also brings changes in one's physical and mental condition. So this is why it is necessary that you make changes in your lifestyle as well, to suit these changes in the climate, in your bodily, physical, and mental conditions. So this is what Ritucharya is. Behavioral conduct is, it is a general self-explanatory thing. Behavioral conduct is how you're supposed to conduct oneself morally, socially, physically, all these religiously. So these are the guidelines how you're supposed to conduct yourself. We might not go into behavioral conduct in detail, but we will see a few points. So let's go to, we are going to first see Ritucharya. What is Ritucharya? Ritu means season. So Ritu means season. Charya means the regimen or the discipline or the do's and don'ts of that particular season. Ritucharya consists of lifestyle and Ayurvedic diet routine to cope with the bodily and mental impacts caused by the seasonal changes. So, as I have mentioned before, you have to, the seasonal changes means there are changes in the climatic conditions, there are changes in the humidity, there are changes in the wind blowing, and so as there are changes in the body, that is physical and mental, and you cannot stick to your same regimen throughout the season, because it has to suit these changes, have becoming these changes, the external and the internal changes of the body. So your lifestyle has to change as well. If you don't, then there are setbacks. For the best thing to explain this is, I often get patients who come during flu-like symptoms or fever, when there is change in the season. Now, why it happens? It is, in modern terms, it is explained like, no, because there are seasonal changes. There are few virus getting activated, and those causes flu-like symptoms. But do you think, is it every time that you are getting infected with a virus when there is change in season? No, it is not. You get you get these disease symptoms only when you are not coping up with the change in the external climate, which also brings change in your body, but you do not bring any changes in your lifestyle. This is where the problem starts. So when there is change in season, your body suddenly gives you signals that, okay, now you have to probably eat less. Now you have to eat simple food. Now you have to eat heavy food. Now your hunger has increased. Now your hunger has decreased. There are signals given by the body, and you have to learn to understand these signals and make changes accordingly. So This is where Ritucharya comes in play. Ritucharya gives us guidelines as to how you're supposed to conduct your ahar, your regimen, and your the daily routine that you're supposed to do, which changes in every season. Okay, so how do we explain this change in season? Okay, in change in season. So basically, it is the hot and the cold climate, um, and it is brought about by the movement of sun towards the northern hemisphere, towards the north direction, and towards the southern direction. Now, when the sun moves towards the north, that is known as Uttarayana. When it Uttarayana, so the Makar Sankranti in Hindu religion, the festival of Makar Sankranti is a mark of the sun moving towards the north direction. The movement of sun begins towards the north direction, and now starts the heat season, the hot season. Okay. However, the beginning phase is still continued with the chill phase, the winter phase, which is from the previous sorry from the previous season. Okay, so initially up till the January, there is a bit of chill, and gradually it goes towards the heat. The climate goes towards the heaty side. Now, which are the seasons? The winter season, the spring season, and the summer season are the ones which come under Uttarayan, means when the sun is in the northern hemisphere. Uh, when it starts, again, I told you Makar Sankranti is the only only festival, Hindu festival, which comes on the same day, that is 15th of January. So, it starts the Uttarayan, that is the movement of sun, starts from mid January to mid July. So slowly it is moving. This is the time where the sun is dominant, so there is lots of heat, and this takes away all the strength of the body, all the energy, uh, uh, all the what do you say, the life, what you call it, it is kind of taken away by the heat of the sun. And this also it is brought because there is a lot of heat. The earth, our planet itself, starts our there is heating of earth during this time, not the whole planet, but our the land, there is heating of the land. So this brings about the effect of heat in everything. So now let's okay, Dakshinayan is when the sun is coming towards the southern direction. Okay, descent of the sun in the southern direction is known as Dakshinayan. It brings about the about cooling effect in our country. It starts from mid July to mid and lasts up to mid January. The effect of the sun is less, so there is more of cooliness and less of heat. Strength of the person enhances during this period, and there is cooling of the earth, so there is cooling of the land, and the strength increases, the hunger increases. So this is the time you feel more hungry, you feel intense hunger. This is the time you're allowed to eat heavy oily rich food. This is Dakshinayan. Now, which are the season which comes under Dakshinayan? Monsoon, autumn, and late autumn. Okay, so now let's go towards each season in brief. I'll give you idea what is supposed to do when there is under each season, so that you at least have an idea what you're supposed to eat, and the regimen that you have to follow. Shishir Ritu, the winter. So I'm going to start from January. From mid January to mid March, it is the winter season. There is intense cold, there is dryness, there is excessive hunger. So this is the time the hunger increases. Okay, there is a lot of dryness in the environment, and so uh, this is more related towards the northern side of India, where winters are very intense. Okay. Mm, But of course, the entire these regimen, this Ritucharya is meant for the entire country. So you can follow this everywhere. Only I'm saying that the northern side goes under intensive cold, chilliness during this time. Okay. Diet: hot and oily food. So this is the time where you are supposed to consume very nutritious and very fat rich food, which are supposed to be hot by nature and hot by temperature also. Sweet, sour, salty taste can be taken liberally. Nutritious fatty food can be consumed, such as porridge, soups, and sweets. So, it should be liquidy, it should be rich, it should be fatty, and it should be nutritious. Okay. um, so this climate demands a lot of nutrition because there is intense hunger. The digestive fire uh, is uh, is very high, and it can digest all these nutrition. Uh, so the food needs to be very heavy. Contraindicated are meager foods such as oats, millets, barley. So these are foods which are very less in their nutrition content. So these are supposed to be avoided during these times. Cold foods, ice cream, chilled. Cold foods by nature and by temperature. So by temperature wise, I have mentioned ice cream, chilled drinks, chilled cold drinks, beverages. All these are cold food, plus cold in by nature. That is uh, food that is, for example, cucumber, bananas. These are cold by nature, so you are supposed to avoid these as well. Food of bitter, pungent, and astringent taste have to be avoided. Now, regimen: oil massage is required to because oil massage gives strength to the body. It pacifies Vata, and to curb the dryness that is brought about by this season. Bathing with lukewarm water, not very hot water, but lukewarm water, so that it provides enough strength and warmthness to your body. Exposure to sunlight and wearing warm clothes. So these are exposure to sunlight. So whenever you have a sunlight, you have to, of course, exposure to sunlight is healthy by all means. So because there is lack of sunlight and lack of heat, uh, during this early winter phase, you have to expose yourself to sunlight and wear warm clothes. So next season is spring, which starts from mid-March to mid-May. Sun becomes brighter. It becomes a little intense than winter. Climate is less cold, so it is kind of this pleasant heat with little cold mixed. Okay, kapha increases, hunger is less intense, so there is increase in kapha, but digestion is little low. So so the diet which we consume during this period should be little lighter. It should be easy to digest compared to the winter, and it should not increase cough. It should be cough or decreasing diet. So this is the time when there is increase in cough. So you should not push it. Increase it furthermore. So your diet should be cough or decreasing diet. If you want to know this, please refer to my previous ahar chart. Water cough or decreasing diet. Less oil consumption. Avoid curds strictly. Curds, according I stop curds in all my patients in my practice, because most of them are not aware of how you're supposed to have curds, and it is kind of not healthy. I would say curds, unless you know how the guidelines and what you're supposed to eat curds. We will discuss this few topics maybe in our any upcoming class, because there are some foods which are known to be healthy, but actually they are not. Even some people, they say curds are cold by nature, but it is not. It is hot in nature, and it is very heavy to digest. Okay, let's keep that aside. We will discuss these topics in some other class. So less oil, avoid curd strictly. Do not consume water after food. So this is the time where kapha is increasing, so digestion is slowly getting or decreasing. So we have to not burden it by drinking water after food. You can have water sip by sip as per your thirst, but not gulp water at once after food. It decreases digestion furthermore. Okay, non-vegetarians can consume tandoor and roasted meat. Again, I have mentioned this in Kapha diet, um, where the non-veg food should be less rich in oil and fats, and should be prepared in a way where more of oil is not required. So roasting and tandoor is the best, which decreases kapha. Okay. Contraindications. So heavy, sour, oily, sweet food are contraindicated. Oil massage is contraindicated during this time. Okay, regimen exercise. So this is a pleasant, pleasant time. The body is kind of adjusting itself from from the chill of the winter, and exercise. You can exercise, indulge exercising during this time. Hot water bath can be taken, medicinal fumes inhalation. Now, this I will not go in detail. You have to kindly consult if your Ayurvedic doctor for medical fume inhalation, because it comes under part of medicine. So, use of kajal, day sleep is strictly forbidden. Again, because kapha is in increasing phase, so day sleep, which also increases cough, is forbidden during springtime. Okay. Hmm. So basically, you have to prevent yourself from increasing kapha during this time. Okay. Grishma, that is summer season, which extends from mid-May to mid-July. There is intense heat, unhealthy wind, unhealthy dry wind, loo, what we call it. You can, the strength of the person decreases, deposition of vata dose. So you can, I can connect directly to this one advertisement which was shown, where the son literally puts straw in one boy who's coming from school. He puts a straw in his head and he's sucking out everything, all the strength and all the energy from that person. So it is exactly like that. The sun takes away most of your energy and strength. Okay. This is the time when vata is slowly increasing in the body. um, Diet light to digest, sweet, unctuous, cold potencies, more liquid. So here, because you are already lacking in strength, you have to consume very light to digest food, containing sweet and unctuous. Again, sweet, which pacifies vata, and it increases kapha. So this is the time you need to increase kapha in your body. You need to bring that coolness in your body. So eating food with cold potencies. So drinking this panna, drinking uh, what do you call it, thandai, and drinking all this sharbat and all. These are taken during this time to bring coolness in your body. Cold water, buttermilk, fruit juices, meat soup. So this is the time you're not supposed to roast meat. You have to make soups of meat. So you have to cook meat in water medium. Best not to eat meat during summer, but if you are habituated to, then you have to cook it in water. In the sense, you have to cook it in a liquid medium and not roast or dry tandoor it. Mango juice churned with curd or with peppers. Basically, I avoid curd. This is um, churned curd with pepper. Okay, this is basically buttermilk. You have to add just 2 spoons of curd. Basically, you have to dilute curd into 1:8 proportion and adequately spice it and prepare buttermilk. So this is how you're supposed to have. This is what you're supposed to have in cold season. It brings cooling properties to the body. Milk with candy sugar at bedtime is advised. So again, milk and candy sugar both cooling properties. Mm, what is contraindicated? Salty, sour foods and stimulants are contraindicated. Do not exercise or overstress your body. Basically, avoid exercising. If, if you are habituated to exercise, then just exercise enough to keep your body what do you call it, flexible, to keep your body flexible, and do not overstress your body. So summer seasons, you're not supposed to do heavy gymming and heavy running. All these are contraindicated. They overstress the body, and they could lead to certain kinds of diseases. Now, regimen: be in cool rooms. Day sleep can be taken if weakness persists is present. So, in case there is extreme weakness in countries, in areas where there is extreme heat, then you can sleep during the day to rehydrate, to replenish your energy. Be in cool rooms. So there are many ways in Ayurveda also, which are told how you can cool the rooms, bring your room temperature down without AC. So, but if you are in AC, okay, it is allowed. Sleep under moonlight. This is in some areas. These are practiced where you sleep directly on the roof under moonlight. So moon basically is a cooling property. So take the moonlight, it brings cooling effect in your body. Applying thin paste of sandalwood on the forehead, on the hands, on the body also. Cold bath can be taken. So cold water bath can be taken in summer to curb the heat. Varsha, that is monsoon season, extends from July to mid-September approximately. Now it is haywire. The monsoon can come anytime and destroys the crops and many things. But this is what generally it is, mid-July to mid-September. Bath is excited. So in summer season, slowly the body starts accumulating vata, and in monsoon it gets excited, it gets vitiated. So the body is in a condition of vata is excited and pitta is accumulated. So basically there is a lot of vata and there is a disturbed digestion. Okay, and the kapha is also accumulating. So basically all the three doshas are in a very haywire condition during the monsoon. The hunger decreases due to decrease in Agni. So, because there is a lot of disturbance in all these doshas, the body decreases the Agni because of the pitta accumulation. Body becomes weak due to preceding summer, because there is a lot of energy taken away, all the strength taken away in the summer season. The body is now become weak, and it has to slowly uh, get that strength, which becomes gradually, but not in monsoon. This is a very weak state where people are prone to diseases. People are prone to catch infection because of all the three doshas are in a very disturbed state. So this is a very what is a delicate state where you have to be very careful of your diet, of your regimen, especially your diet. Why I'm saying, because nowadays the food that we get, they are a kind that are available throughout the year. It was not like that initially. Initially, after the end of particular season, that those kind of foods were stopped. They were not available anymore. Hence, automatically uh, the diet part was somewhere taken care of. But now it is made available. Hybrid things are brought about, and foods are made available all the year wise, all the year time. So this is the time you have to take care, be selective of what you are eating, and how you are conducting yourself. So body become weak due to preceding summer diet. Hot, warm, and light to digest food to be to be taken. So food which is hot and warm are always easy to digest. Again, the preparation of food itself should be the ones which are easily digestible. Okay. Um, so diet, hot, warm, and light to digest food has to be taken. So hot, warm food The temperature wise itself are easily digestible. Again, the selection of food and the preparation of the food should be such a way that they are easily digested. Fresh vegetable boiled with appropriate spices. Now, if fresh vegetables which are always supposed to be cooked, never eat salads in monsoon. Okay, they have to be spiced with appropriate spices because so as to enhance or so as to encourage digestion. Avoid meat consumption again. If meat consumption during this season have to be avoided because like humans, all the doshas are vitiated. Even in animals, same things happen, and even they are prone to many diseases. So it is best avoided. It is best to avoid consumption of meat during this time. Home cooked food only, because it is very difficult to take care of hygienic conditions of food where you are assured that the food is prepared in hygienic condition as well as the food is cooked properly. Okay, avoid oily food because it is oily, and fatty food because it is difficult to digest. Contraindication: getting wet in the rain, day sleep, exercise, hard work, sexual indulgence. So obviously, some people when there is first when it rains, they like to get wet in the first rain and all that thing. It is contraindicated. You're not supposed to get wet in the rain because it excites vata, it increases kapha also. So don't get wet in the rain. Day sleep is absolutely contraindicated, not supposed to sleep during the day. Exercise is contraindicated. So again, if you want to exercise, just do exercise enough to keep your body flexible. Hard work, any kind of hard work which puts a stress on your physical body is are supposed to be avoided. Sexual indulgence is also is one where there is lot of physical exertion, so these are also supposed to be avoided during varsha monsoon season. Regimen: use of boiled water for bath. So because there is because the water which is supplied to you by tap, or water which is the source of water also could be contaminated. Basically what I want to tell you is, so always use water which are high, which is boiled, or which is heated on a very high temperature, and then you can mix it and bring it, or wait till it comes down to a low temperature and have bath, so that you are assured that the water that you are having bath with is not carrying any infection or any other source of infection. Rubbing the body with oil properly after bath is advised. So again, because there is vitiation of bath, you have to apply oil after having bath. So this is what Varsha monsoon season is. So basically, to conclude, I would say monsoon season is the one which all the three doshas are vitiated. All the three doshas are not stable, uh, which makes you prone to any diseases. Which makes you prone to diseases. So you have to take care of your diet regimen as well. Okay, as well, no, it is important that you take utmost care of your diet and regimen. Autumn. So Sharad Ritu is from mid September to mid November. Agni increases during this season. So as the Varsha monsoon season is ending, it comes to the end. uh, Slowly the doshas get settled. There is increase in Agni. So again, this is the time where slowly there is coolness again. There is cooling properties in the climate. Agni, your digestive fires are getting little stronger. The strength of the person remains medium. Diet, what you have to follow is sweet, astringent, and pungent. So indulge yourself into more of sweet dishes, astringent and pungent dishes. So this is the time where you can have spicy food. Ghee should be consumed in large amounts. Boiled and cooled water. Avoid food with hot potency. Hing, garlic, and mustard have to be avoided. Pickles and fried foods avoided. Same because it is pungent and uh, spicy. Medium use of spices. Contraindication: day sleep is contraindicated. Excessive eating is contraindicated because your digestive fire is just beginning to increase. So do not overeat. Excessive exposure to sunlight has to be avoided. Hot, bitter, sweet, and astringent food are to be uh, avoided. Okay, so basically bitter and sweet have to be avoided. There is some contraindication. Late autumn, which is mid-November and mid-January, cool wind starts and chilliness in felt. So this is the time where winter sets in. Strength of the person remains highest. So this is the time where it is a kafakal. So always you can relate kafakal to the strength. We have seen this in our previous classes. So this is the time the person is at his highest strength. Even the activity of your digestive fire increases. So your hunger increases slowly. Diet. This is the time you can indulge yourself into heavy, rich food, unctuous food, sweet, sour, salty foods. Meat can be eaten during this time. Fats and so fatty again. You can prepare meats by putting a lot of fats and kind of preparations like that. Milk and milk products can be had in a huge amount. Nutritious fattening food. So puris, halwas, kheer, all these fatty and nutritious food can be had during this time. So this is the time usually when Diwali festival comes in, our Christmas comes in. So this which the preparations made during these seasons are very heavy. They are always oily. They are always fatty. So this is why mm, uh, the preparation is made to help our body cope with the increasing digestive fire. Contraindication: lagu, cold and dry foods. Again, those meager foods which are very less in nutrition have to be avoided during this time. I have mentioned these foods before. Intake of cold drinks. So cold. Temperature wise, you have to avoid taking in cold food. Regimen: exercise can be done. So this is the time where your strength is maximum, so you can indulge in yourself in a good amount of exercise. Now I'll tell you how you're supposed to do exercise as well in dinacharya. Body and head massage is required during this time, because this is the time which where you need to build your strength. Your strength is already building, but you need to support it. So use of warm water is advised. Sunbathing, heavy clothing, sexual indulgence with one partner residing in warm places is recommended. Okay. So I have given you a gist, a brief of how you're supposed to conduct yourself diet and regimen wise during all the seasons. Okay. You have to understand that there are changes externally. Your body also, it brings changes in your body as well. And if you just keep doing the same things, you do not make any changes in your lifestyle, in your diet, you are prone to diseases. Okay, this is the simplest rule. Learn to listen to your body, learn to understand the signals of your body, and only then you will understand, not only season wise, even during the day, even times when you're falling sick, you have to hmm, you have to learn to listen to your body signal. Okay. It is a very interesting topic. I really would like to take uh, in session on this, how to understand your body signals, because this is something which is most neglected, and it's the biggest culprit behind this is all these gadgets that we are with the entire day. We are on our Facebook, we are on our on Insta, and I don't know what. There are so many apps. There are so many gadgets from which we can access these apps. You know, and we are in a constant state of disturbance. We are not we do not concentrate on what is going on around us. Our mind is somewhere else. Okay, so this is the biggest culprit in uh, which brings you in a puts you in a situation where you start avoiding your body's signal. Okay, big lecture. Let's go to dinacharya now. Daily regimen. Mm, so what is dinacharya? Dinacharya are all the things that you are supposed to do right from sunrise to just before sunset. Okay, that includes waking up 30 to 45 minutes just before sunrise. Now, ideally, what Ayurveda says that you're supposed to wake up at Brahma Muhurta, that is 2 to 3 hours before sunrise. Usually, it is 5 a.m. Okay, but practically, I feel everybody should at least now, if they are not waking up at Brahma Muhurta, at least they should start by waking up 35 to 45 minutes just before sunrise. Okay, so that you get enough time to do all the remaining things that are mentioned. So after waking up, you have to attend to all the natural urges. Again, I have told about the 13 natural urges that are mentioned, which are unsuppressible, and if suppressed, they cause diseases down the line. So the first thing in the morning you have to do is wake up and then attend to your natural urges, bowel and bladder movement. Now, if many people will say ki we are not habituated to evacuate our bowels early in the morning, or we cannot do it without drinking a cup of tea and all, then uh, tea is no, but you can help yourself by drinking some hot water, and you can also have by taking proper consultation with an Ayurvedic doctor. You can help yourself by taking a gentle laxative the previous day, so that you can uh, there is no problem in your bowel movements. Okay, then brushing your teeth. Again, now brushing your teeth, I would also like to say that initially people used to use datul. You know, those were the branches of trees, and never the datul was a sweet one. Okay, because mouth is an area of kapha dosha. Okay, there is lot of kapha accumulation in the mouth, so it is always wise to use a toothpaste or something to clean your mouth which is astringent or bitter in taste. Okay. Now, oil pulling. Everybody must have heard about this thing, oil pulling. But there is a proper way of doing it. It is not just putting oil in your mouth and swishing it here and there and then throwing it out after some time. No, it's not that. There is a proper procedure of oil pulling, and you will get the benefits only if it is done properly. Otherwise, it is just oil wasting, I think. I'm not sure, but yeah, it is best to do Ayurvedic procedures only under if you know the proper way of doing it. Okay, we will maybe discuss some few procedures in some other class. We'll keep you posted about it. So yeah, brushing teeth with bitter or astringent, bitter or astringent cleanser should be done. After brushing and cleaning, you have to indulge yourself in little bit of exercise, yoga, and meditation. So you can do meditation then or later also. After taking bath, people prefer it both ways. Exercise, yes, this is the time you have to do a gentle exercise. Now, how you're supposed to know how much exercise is good for you? Some people, it is difficult to do exercise. So, if you are not if you're doing it just beginning to do it, then initially you have to just do your body movements, that is movement of all the joints. So movement of all the joints, loosening, just loosening the joints, slowly preparing your body for the exercise. um, and then slowly step by step you have to increase your exercise. So initially, how do you know when is the time you have to increase your exercise, when you have to go to the next step? So when uh, while you're doing exercise, the moment you start, your breath rate of breathing increases, and when at a point where you start breathing from the mouth, okay, breathing from the nose is not enough and breathing from the mouth has to be done, that is the time you have to stop your exercise. Okay, that is enough exertion. Then you have to go towards cooling down exercises and stop your session. In yoga, I feel personally, Surya Namaskar is the best exercise. It includes the entire body. It indulges the entire body. So Surya Namaskar is best for me. But of course, you can do whatever is best for you and whatever you like. Um, but again, the rule is the same. Once you start breathing from the mouth, it is the time you have to stop your exercises. Now slowly when you get used to that physical exertion, the time of you to start breathing from the mouth will increase. Okay, so maybe in the first day, first few weeks, it will start with just two laps of Surya Namaskar. Then slowly you will be able to do 3 4 without breathing from mouth, and that is how you're supposed to slowly increase your strength of doing the exercise. Meditation, it is always better. Personally, I feel I always end my exercise with meditation. It does two things. It takes care of my meditation, and it brings the cooling down of the body as well. So meditation also is an important part. Uh, has to be done on at the beginning of the day. Massage. Now everybody will say massage is not possible every day, but I think if it is not possible every day, then you have to take a few sessions of massage from any therapist, or best to take it from therapist. But do get yourself a massage. It relaxes the body, it provides strength to the body, it soothes all the muscles, all the, sometimes we are not we are using some muscles the most, and there are some few muscles which are not that much used. So massage brings relaxation to all the muscles of the body, mind. So do massage, if not regularly, but yes, once in a while you have to do it. Now at home, before bathing, before taking a bath, what you can do is a gentle application of oil to your foot, to your foot, to your calf muscles and your hands, with a little application on your head, okay, or for your hair. Um, that can be done and managed, I think, at least 2 to 3 times a week. Bathing, again, according to the Ritucharya, you have to decide whether you have to take a hot water bath or a cold water bath, and have a bath accordingly. Mm, breakfast is a must. Early morning breakfast, it should be a huge one. It should be the biggest meal of the day, according to Ayurveda. Because you are eating after a long fast at the night, plus and that increases your agni, so you have to pacify that by eating, keeping breakfast as the biggest meal of the day, followed by your regular, what do you say, your regular errands for the day. Lunch has to be taken by 12 to 1 p.m. Again, if you're a working person, you then get yourself indulged in your regular errands. and your day ends at 6 p.m. So we will then go to Ratri Charya, that is regimen for the night. Dinner has to be taken by 6 to 7 p.m. Strictly, not strictly, but at least by 8 p.m. you have to be done with your eating your last meal for that day. Eating your last solid meal means solid, not liquid, solid meal for that day. Okay, by 8 p.m. Cutoff is 8 p.m. Basically, Ayurveda does not recommend eating any solid food after sunset. That is because after sunset, the Agni is down, the digestive fire is down, the body is not prepared to digest or receive any solid food. Okay, begin your night regimen now. Night regimen could be your eating of books, indulging in your hobbies. You have, it is the last thing, it is like you are ending the day. So you can it is best to actually prepare a regimen so that you are not missing out on anything. You could indulge yourself in your hobbies, reading books, listening to peaceful music. Listening to peaceful music, I'm saying, not some exciting music, again, because I have mentioned in my Ratri Charya, the sleep class, that you are not supposed to do anything exciting or take any kind of stimulants during this time. So it should be peaceful music. It should be a very peaceful environment. Basically, to tell you in short, it should be boring. Okay, it should bring boredom, and it should tell your body, okay, I am tired now, you have to go to sleep. That is when you will your body will take you to your bed to sleep. Or else if you keep yourself exposed to exciting things, then you are killing your sleep. Okay, so that is not your night regimen. Other thing you can do is again, spend time with your family. uh, then you can prepare yourself for the next day. Make whatever uh, you have to, whatever your work is for tomorrow. You can prepare yourself for that day. May it be your official work, or even if it is the smallest thing, like deciding what you're supposed to cook for the next day. It helps when you are somewhat prepared for next day. So you can do that. Night regimen. Also, what say, okay. And then preparing your sleep area, of course, then I had, that is one point I had mentioned. If you already have a messy bedroom, then you are killing your sleep. Then self care things like brushing your teeth, putting oil, massaging your feet before sleeping. Okay, cleaning yourself. These are the things you can. These are the things that come under beginning to preparing your night regimen. Now, especially kids, I feel if you are a mother, if then you have to start preparing your kids from this age itself for night regimen. Okay, so that they are habituated to not exposing themselves to stimulant before the sleep. Because anyways, when they will reach college, when they will go, when the external environment will be more influencing them, that is not the time to correct all those things. So start inculcating these habits right from the childhood. And you have to sleep by 10 p.m. So again, I had tell you, I had mentioned in my previous class that you have to sleep just before the pitta kal starts, and you have to sleep during the kapha kal. So the kapha kal ends at 10 p.m. So you have to sleep just before 10 p.m. Okay, so this is what our Dinacharya and Ratri Charya was. So we have discussed Ritucharya, Dinacharya, and Ratri Charya, that is regimen for the night. Now we are going to Sadvritta. Sadvritta is basically the behavioral or the ethical regimen. Okay, um, so what are these? They are good mental conduct, good social conduct, good personal conduct, good moral conduct and good religious conduct. So there are many points under this these under each of these points. It is a very elaborately mentioned, but I will just point out a few, um, to give you an idea of each of these. Starting with good mental conduct. Now, uh, what is good mental conduct is, basically how you conduct yourself mentally. So you have to take proper decision making. So you cannot, do not get indulged in any new work without getting proper information about it. Not new work, any new thing without getting proper information about it. Do not indulge yourself in heavy emotions, like, becoming overwhelmed or becoming emotionally excited. These are the things you have to, not control, but train yourself into not getting into these things. Then laziness is one biggest thing which comes under mental conduct. Okay, postponing things, putting it on tomorrow. Okay, these are the this lethargy and laziness is something you have to avoid. Self awareness, basically by indulging yourself into meditation, understanding yourself, understanding your purpose, understanding your goals, what you have to achieve, what you have to. So not just career wise, there are a lot of other things, lot of other goals that you feel. So these conducts come under mental conduct. Good social conduct, I feel now this is a very interesting one, as far as corona, since this corona pandemic is concerned. Social conduct, mm, that is your responsibility towards the society, or how you conduct yourself in the society. So it basically, what I mentioned, the points that I mentioned is, be friendly to people, be helpful to people, be helpful to needy and poor people. Always have a pleasant expression on your face, and be approachable. It helps you down the line. It helps you in many ways if you are approachable. You can say no anytime, but if people don't approach you at all because of your conduct, you're missing out on many opportunities. So it is, it is best to be pleasant and approachable. Always start conversation. Don't keep your ego so big that you say ki, why, first let them talk, then I will talk. No, that is not the way. You have to approach irrespective whether that, however that person is. Okay. Initiate conversation, that is what I'm saying. Then it is it is best to find a mentor, who can guide you appropriately in most of the things. Mentor for anything. It is best that you follow someone who you generally believe in, and who has the power and knowledge to guide you. So this is another thing for social conduct. Again, for during this pandemic is, wearing this mask, uh, you know understanding that you could spread the disease, and or you could catch one. So please conduct yourself like that. Take appropriate precautions, be responsible towards the society. These are social conduct. Now, good personal conduct are, mentally, you have to always be true to yourself. Don't be fake. Don't try to imitate someone else. Be true to yourself. Be your original self. Um, you have to take care of yourself physically, proper exercises, taking care of your diet, taking care of your regimen, taking care of your physical body. Okay. By avoid oversleeping, maintaining cleanliness of your body. These are good personal conducts. Now, good moral conducts are the ones of moral, like, you do things where you don't necessarily benefit out of it. That is what is moral conduct. So doing good things, good deeds such as helping the society, helping animals, helping birds, basically helping anyone who needs your help. Charity, donation, these come under good moral conduct. So donation is not just monetary donation, organ donation, your blood donation, your plasma donation also comes under good moral conduct. So good religious conduct is, again, it is best to have I told you, it is best to have a mentor. If not, then it is, I think, devotion, putting yourself in hands of a higher energy is always good. There is always hope. When things become out of your hand, out of your control, you need somewhere to look forward to. So I feel this is where religion comes into play. That you have hope. Finally, hope is the one which is required in your most bad times. So you this this is how you're supposed to. This is the reason why I feel one should have religion. And good religious conduct is, keep yourself surrounded with auspicious things, keep yourself surrounded with positive, hopeful things, and keep away from negativity, keep away from uncleanliness, keep away from unholy, and all the things that drain away energy from you mentally. So this, I think, should be good religious conduct. Praying, again, praying is just a way of increasing that faith in you, that hope in you. So yeah, it brings positivity in you, and once you are positive, I think you can handle most of the things very well. So yes, praying, devotion, it keeps you connected with yourself. This is the time you take to connect with the energy that you believe in, but indirectly this is the time you take for yourself in understanding many things that you otherwise neglect. Okay. Respect your god, respect your religion, respect your teachers, respect your elderly. These are people who have attained their wisdom through knowledge, through their age. So give respect to them. You will be treated equally. So this is what good uh, ethical regimen is, that is sadvrita. Okay. What are unethical conduct now? What you're supposed to keep yourself away from is injury, that is physical torture to uh, mm, there are these are the Sanskrit words which I will just skip because we are having less time. Hinsa, that is violence. You have to keep yourself away from causing injury or torture to others. That is staying away from robbery, stealing, injury to in what instigating other people to steal. So these are so basically stealing, unethical, taking away others' property unethically or without consent, unlawful sexual activity, abusive harsh speech, where you can destroy mental or physical mental peace of other people. Stay away from such speech. um, Scolding, speaking lie, again. Then speech causing dissection, separation, breaking of family, breaking of company. So basically, all harmful kinds of speech that spreads negativity is supposed to avoid. Then jealousy and not tolerating good of others, envy, jealousy. So these not only bring injury to others, but they also destroy your peace of mind, the self peace of mind. So you are equally causing harm to yourself. So stay away from such kind of speech. Mm, Finding fault, misunderstanding, faithlessness, um, with scriptures and with elders. So in case if there is someone who's guiding you properly and you are again back questioning them. What are you telling? Especially kids, they do it now with their parents when they reach a certain age. But that is what we are supposed to. We are supposed to bring them up like that. That they are not supposed to question and scriptures or things which are already tried and tested. Okay, so these are some sins which are body pertaining to body, speech, and mind, which have to be avoided. This is what Sadvrita is comprises of what you are supposed to do and what you are supposed to avoid behavior wise. So with this, we come to the end of the session with, of Bihar. Again, your activity for day today for today is the same. You got to take the information which I had asked you to collect on day one, day two. Analyze yourself, analyze your thoughts, see your mistakes, and incorporate correctional actions slowly and gradually. Okay. Again, I'm repeating the same thing. The first step towards correction is understanding your mistakes. So you first have to understand what you are doing wrong. Accept that it was a wrong thing to do, and that it was harming you by some way or the other. And obviously then this will motivate you into bringing your correctional actions. So with this, we come to our 5 day, our 4 day session. And tomorrow we will be having a question and answer session. I will be taking personally your question and answers on the group. You will be notified when to post your questions, and I will be answering most of them which are pertaining to this class. Okay, I appreciate if you ask questions pertaining to this class. If it is a big information to give, like if you're asking me about some procedure and this, and if it is something which is difficult to explain, and best that you meet your doctor or something like that, then I will not I will probably avoid taking such questions. So please ask questions which are pertaining to this WhatsApp class itself. Okay, I will answer maximum questions. I will take every question personally and uh, ask them. Sorry, answer them. Okay. So with this, let's finish for the day. I'm hoping I get a lot of queries, and I'm very excited to answer your query as well. So let's meet tomorrow's session for tomorrow's session on our Q&A. Okay. Finishing for today's class. Thank you.